4:30?
No, I mean, Kathy wanted to do something at 4, so we're gonna go over the revenues and we really need to.
You did schedule it for 4, didn't you?
Yeah.
Works for me.
Yeah, she
Okay.
did schedule it for 4.
It's Monday, August 22nd. I'm gonna open the selectmen's meeting. First order of business is to salute the flag.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's no public, so I won't worry about public input. Let's just approve the minutes before we start with Kathy. So I've got the selectmen's draft minutes from Monday, August 8th, 9 a.m.
Move to approve is written.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye. Abstain.
Okay. Now we want to start with Kathy. What we want to do is review the revenues for 2022. We have to, when are these due?
September 1st is MS4.
MS4 is due on September 1st.
I didn't change them from what you originally did that's actually at the state right now.
Right.
You guys decided you want to change it. And the actuals are right next to the ones that we submitted to the state as of 8/19.
So some of these are going to change between now and December 31st. Be that as it may, I guess we'll go line by line. The land use change tax that we estimated was $8,000. We collected $1,850.
They tend to come in November, December.
Yeah. So, unless you have some other feeling, I'd like to leave it alone.
Yeah, I'd say leave it alone on Kathy's observation that comes in.
Timber, 3185 is, we estimated at 20, we're currently at 1740, 443. So,
No change there either, eh?
well, it could actually go up, but I think it might
Well,
be.
Yes, it's,
Yeah, it's on schedule, but it's a bit.
if it goes up, it's a bonus.
The 3186 payment in lieu of taxes always comes in the fall, whatever it is, after camps are closed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking of the pilot on the land use tax.
Is that the $19.15?
No, that one looks like it's okay, the pilots, because that's the one I said comes in November or December. The first one that we were talking
Oh,
about.
land use change comes in
Yeah,
when it comes in.
Well, that comes in when it comes in, and I haven't seen much.
Right.
I don't know if people will be changing their, so I don't know if you want to lower that or not, or just go with it.
I know historically, we don't have any historic numbers here.
No.
It's run about that much every year.
Okay,
So,
okay, sorry to interrupt.
I
Okay.
mean, if we've overstated it by $7,000, it's not going to make an enormous
Right.
amount of difference on $1.5 million.
Excellent.
3187 excavation.
There.
Yeah.
Tammy, we pretty much collected excavation, right? People have turned in their forms for the year.
Well, they're still digging. They'll be digging till November.
At least. Maybe more.
All right.
You wanna go up?
Boat registration at 3189 is running. I mean, I don't need more boats to register, but it's running pretty close to me.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's going to register any more boats for the rest of the year.
I don't know why the Willand Road retirement is under the same MS number, 3099.
Yeah, that's how it is.
That's how it is, the
Yeah.
boat registrations?
Yeah, well, it's not just boat registrations with the state.
Okay. So that $5,500 will book in the next tax bill?
Yep, she runs a separate one, and it's usually towards the end of the year. The reason they do that is their title for that is other taxes. So that's why boats under
Okay.
the same.
3190 is penalties and interest.
From
We're
what?
about halfway there with that. I'm sorry.
Penalties and interest from what?
Late taxes. I think part of the land use change tax goes in there, I don't know.
If they, yeah.
Right. So that's a function of our taxation, so if it were 22,000 now, we had the July bills paid, when the November bills go out, we're gonna have a certain
Should
amount of that
collect,
come
yeah.
in.
Probably not till after the first of the year, right?
Whenever they decide to
Right,
pay
but
the
it'll still
taxes.
get booked on 2022, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Business licenses and permits. Qu'est-ce que c'est?
It's pretty.
What does that entail for information purposes?
Business license and permits, UCCL filing, municipal agent fees. That's what all goes in there.
Okay,
And that's Jen's area, and I spoke with her both about that one and the next one, the motor vehicle, and she feels it's pretty on track for what we have in there now.
Really?
okay. All right, so those are town clerk collected. So I'll skip over to building permits. We're at 42,000, we got 58 as an estimate, and they're still coming in, so
500 that one.
that seems pretty,
Yeah, because that also includes your electrical permits, your,
right.
Oh,
it's
everything.
not just.
Right, not just the structure.
Mhm.
Other licenses and permit fees. We have now reached the estimated revenue.
Yeah, that's dog licensing, dog fines, marriage licenses, vitals, parking and trailer fees, that kind of thing. Hunting and fishing licenses.
So we could very well go over on that would accommodate for the land use change difference that we had on the first line.
Mm.
Rooms and meals comes in November,
Somewhere around
and I think that was estimated at 150.
there. It was. And I haven't seen a change in that.
The highway block grant, we estimated at 81. So far, it's coming in at 136,846. Does that include the 70,000?
It does, that's why I wrote it on the side, it includes that.
Okay.
I'm not sure, I'll have to talk to Michelle, she did finally answer me with an email today, but that particular one, like, we don't include the 126,000 in there. I don't know if we should be including the 70,000 in there, because it's an aid.
Well, the 70,000 is highway aid. The 126 wasn't. That was different.
That's
Okay.
that's ARPA money, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
so
So-
you think we should add it in there?
I don't.
You don't think we should
Oh,
add it
yeah.
in there?
No.
The 70, you don't think it should be added?
Well, the 70
Yeah.
is highway block grant,
Right.
absolutely.
But that was an additional due to,
Right, but it's under the same category.
okay, so what do you want to change?
Nothing.
Right.
You don't want to add the 70,000 to that
I
81?
thought you said that was added to the 130.
Yeah, the 136 is the actual,
That includes 70,
yes.
okay.
But what I'm saying is the column, the first column is the column
the
that,
81,000.
yeah, that we
Right.
report.
Okay,
So you want to up that to 136,840. You have one more check that'll be coming in for the highway grant too. For-
all right, hold on, let me just, can I have the calculator?
That'd be for $34,242.58 in this paper.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Sorry, Mr. Kenny. Okay. So currently, if you're just comparing the 2022 that we estimated to the actual of 2022, with 393,106.
No, you don't want to add them together.
I'm not subtracting them. We're $393,000 short. We've picked up 150 of that in the rooms and meals. So now we're 193,000, no.
I'm not following your math.
I'm taking the original estimate of revenues of $1,544,000.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Subtracting what we've actually collected
yeah.
to see how short we are.
okay.
And we're $393,000 short.
Right.
You still
So,
got
Oh, we got,
But we still have,
3.
yeah, so
5 months to
a
go.
quarter and a half to go.
Yeah.
Right. So the effect of changing the actual revenues on highway block grant to 136,846 only accomplishes 846, covering any shortfalls on any other lines. Excuse me. So you want to change it up to the actual on that?
Well, we're at 75%, 74.5%. And so I think we're ahead of the game, actually.
We are.
If you do it mathematically, we're ahead of the game.
Because you got one more check coming for 34,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we'll leave it alone?
Yes.
All right.
You want to leave it at 81, you're saying?
I'm sorry?
You want to put it at 136, or do you want to do it at 81?
No, we'll leave the estimate alone. I think, isn't that what you decided?
Yeah, why
Yeah.
change it?
So we'll leave the 81 as it is.
Okay,
Don't include the
70,
fiscal recovery.
okay,
I've moved on.
okay.
Don't include the 25 or
250.
253,000.
Right,
That's the,
that's the total amount, that's all we're getting, is it? We've gotten it all now.
we have it all, and it's all in the back.
It's all in the bank.
Okay. So, okay. State Milfoil reimbursement.
I talked to Bill about that, that's a good number, the
Okay,
11.
they just haven't paid it, that's the,
They haven't paid us our share, and then we get some out of the trustees fund that pays up the difference. So he
Okay.
said stay at the 11,385.
okay. The Gopher 941. State government reimbursement.
Are we getting any?
Are we getting any of that? It's the next line down, 3379.
The other
No.
3379?
No,
We're not getting anything?
no, not that I know of.
Okay.
I don't know, that's one of the things I want to talk to you. I don't know, has anyone gotten grants that I don't know about yet?
Well, what
Like, didn't
about
you say fire or somebody was supposed to get one?
fire and police? I thought we were gonna have a vote on one of those. Then we've gotten some approval out of Bergeron, I thought. So
Well, I have to add them into the revenue.
They haven't given us the final yet, but
Oh,
Yeah.
they needed the okay to submit the final.
okay,
Okay, so this is gonna change.
I guess so.
And what's the?
I don't know, I don't hear about everything
Okay,
now.
well, what's the drop date, dead date on the MS 434?
99/1,
9/1.
September 1st.
Let's do
So,
this.
are you guys meeting next week too?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
yeah. And we can, we come in on Fridays to sign
Yeah,
checks. We
yeah.
can
Okay.
act independently as a board on that day. The 72,296 is our department's revenue.
So far. I think you're pretty,
We're
I
pretty
think we're
close.
safe to leave that, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Now, you've gone over on sales of municipal property, and that's due to the Lions property.
Right.
So I don't know if you want to up that, seeing it's there that we've already received it.
Right, so that's cash in hand that's already done, it's not gonna change. We don't have any sale coming up of any more property.
Not that I know.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we change 3501 to 172,423.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And not the 28 cents?
No, no, I won't.
No.
We don't do cents. It's just on there, but we don't do cents.
We send that to wherever. Interest at 3158, that's on track.
This
rent-
one has changed a lot.
I'm sorry?
This has changed a
Yeah,
lot.
the rent has changed.
Mhm.
So what is the rent that Verizon's paying us?
42.
683?
Hmm?
Can't be a number like that.
It's
4260?
42, no, that's how much we've collected so far, but we're gonna collect another 4,200 each month from them.
For both or each?
That's total Verizon.
So
So each month.
4,200,
Mm-hmm. And some change if you need to know.
Times 12?
No, not times 12, we have how many months left? We need September, October, and
they
November.
didn't start in January, I don't think.
But they paid me extra. They've gotten up to date, they're up to
Have they
date.
paid from the first of the year?
They have,
So the total we should be collecting is 50,400.
Right.
okay.
4,200 times 12.
Okay, sorry.
Is there any other rent that comes in on that line?
Not anymore, there was Lions property, that's gone.
Okay, so that's just additional rent.
Yeah, yeah. They paid us the back, that's why it's higher than,
Right.
it's gonna be higher than the 50.
And the Lions property probably put a few dollars in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so we should probably up it to,
So do you want to up it to the actual revenue that Verizon's paying?
I think so.
Be a good idea, don't you think?
Okay.
50,400?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll make that
definitely.
motion.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Milfoil joint funds. That's
We're on.
different from the state Milfoil reimbursement, right?
Right.
and that's gone now.
It's
Yeah.
gone.
They don't even have a joint
Okay.
anymore.
Health Trust holiday and Primex refund was $67.99.
So far, I don't know anything about the Health Trust holiday. We haven't gotten any information on that, but the Primex refund did come in, and that's where it came to $67.99.
And was that for 2022?
That was for 2022.
Really? I think it was for 2021. When did you get it?
I got it a week or two ago.
Oh, okay. Because I remember them,
Remember, you voted to have it, you just had a meeting
Yeah,
a couple weeks
get a
ago, and you
check
voted
instead
to
of-
get a check instead of with a,
okay.
but the Health Trust, we haven't heard about that yet. That's if we don't have any claims and that kind of thing.
Maybe it's Health Trust something
You're
happens
probably
in
thinking of-
December
yeah.
after we renew.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna make a motion that we change line 3506 to 6799.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Miscellaneous revenue. I put the
That's-
miscellaneous in the expense account.
Yeah.
okay, it's,
Well, where's it come from?
okay, so some of it is cemetery corner posts and metal stakes.
Okay.
Whatever's left after we pay. Milfoil board, if they give us anything, which probably won't happen. Welfare reimbursements, that can happen. I've had a couple people that have asked for what they owe recently. Bad check fees and Great Meadow donation. That's where that so 20 of that is below. And where it says 20, that's part of that 3509 too.
Where it says 20.
That one's really hard to,
It's one of those 3509's got two
Yeah,
lines.
oh, it's got two lines.
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah,
it's,
because you got the conservation line.
Yeah,
Mhm.
should probably leave that.
Okay,
Yeah, I see no harm in that.
and Great Meadow, I guess we're gonna leave that, it's not gonna be there next year.
it won't be, they've
So-
already gotten the money and they bought the land, so.
Right. And, Primex claim reimbursement.
We have to
Do we
list
have to
it.
list that separately on that?
Yes, I don't know why, because it's a
Okay.
3510. So we get the money, but we end up paying it right back out, because that's basically when there wasn't, when the PD Tahoe got hit and we got a check to the town. So now we gotta write it out to the auto body plus $1,000 deductible, so. I don't know why we have to claim that, but we do,
Because you gotta show the ins and the outs.
yeah. But that's an odd one to have to change.
Okay.
So you're good with everything?
Yeah.
I just wanna accept.
Do we need to vote, on the bottom line?
Yeah, well, that should have changed that
It
They're
should,
gonna-
estimated bottom line, right? 'Cause we
Yeah,
missed
you're
the
gonna
one.
have to change that, yeah, according
The new numbers.
to all the new numbers, which you have the calculator. And I borrow the calculator, or you
Sure.
wanna add it up? This one, add it.
yeah, please. While you're doing that, let's just run through the rest of it. 9998 is the unreserved fund balance contingency. That's the $5,000 you take out for contingency.
Sure.
And okay. So we'll find out what the actual number is.
Well, do we wanna vote on this yet anyway, cause we gotta find out about the other grants.
Right, we're gonna vote on it now because we've made a bunch of changes.
Okay.
And then when we have to make changes again, we don't have to go through the whole process.
Right, all we will be voting on is the revised number.
What'd you get?
I don't know, 177, I'm sorry, 1575457.
Okay.
And,
Nice.
and you add the 5,000, right? And then it's 1580457 is your final number total for the revenue grand total.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, just for discussion.
Yep.
222 total.
I usually have to check my math a few times.
Right.
There's a calculator that has to take.
Okay. So this is a locally calculated number of 1,575,457. If upon audit, she determines that that's the right number, that's also gonna change our unassigned fund balance to $905,900.
905 what?
905, 900. So I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we've got we have an understanding that's the number we came up with. So if something changes between now and September 1st,
I'll let you
that'll
know.
be the change.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I don't actually change that unreserved balance on this sheet because this is the number as of 12/31, and that's the number we have to go by.
Yeah.
Just so, but you guys will know it's higher.
Do know it's higher.
Sweet.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you,
And-
Kathy.
well, I'm not done yet.
Oh, all right.
Okay, so, this is for you, Chip. You asked me to get, some questions answered by Michelle, and you can just
Right.
look at it later if you want. I will give you a copy of it. So, whether we can encumber funds on the warrant article, so you have that.
And can we?
No.
No.
No, not on some of them. You have to meet these requirements to be able to do it. So like Union Wharf, unless you have a contract to actually do the, then you could encumber it if you have a contract to do it, but if you don't have a contract, then you
Okay.
can't, that type of thing. This is the final balance as of today of the police facility
Right.
that you asked me to get.
Right.
Okay, we already got that.
Well, this is as of today with interest and.
Oh, he gave it to me too, so I printed it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know he gave it to you.
So the balance as of today with interest added to principal for the police station trust account is $746,565.57.
Yes.
All of those folks out in television. And did you ask about the use, or did we have to ask about the use of the additional highway block grant money or something other than gravel and?
Well, remember I showed you that earlier, that we can use it for vehicles. That 70,000 can be used.
That's not what this says.
It does.
Yeah. This says it can therefore be used to be part of the match for a project in the Bridge Aid program. It also can be used toward equipment to maintain the local roads. The intent here is that it can be used towards local roads, i.e. not used to build a new library or school or buy a fire truck.
Right.
That's a-
In other words, it can be used for a road truck if you're
Road-
working
A
on
road
the
truck, we can,
Right.
not a police cruiser,
No,
not a fire truck.
no.
Right. And I got that straight in my head.
Okay.
Good, that will help us out considerably.
Well, it certainly opens up a discussion.
It does,
We're
doesn't it?
gonna, because I was looking at the CIP report
Uh-huh,
and there's $235,000 for a dump truck on there.
yeah.
We haven't gotten into that meeting yet, but it'd
Right.
be nice to know. And I did direct Kathy or Cammy to tell the road agent to start getting some numbers.
Yes,
together
I'm
for
aware of
the
that.
road dealers.
I
not
watched
just some
that.
Friend of a cousin who's got a truck for sale.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
good.
Because you have that, and then you have money from the other thing is, I don't know if you want to wait till Jim comes in, but I have the final numbers on paving that you went over on, that you were going to take out of the recovery funds, and you had said wait till you get the final numbers. If you want to wait till Jim comes in, we can do it then.
He's not coming in?
No, not today.
Next week.
Oh,
Whenever he comes in.
Okay. Is it that you don't want to give us bad news on a holiday, or?
No, I'll tell you right now.
Is it a holiday?
So,
It's always a holiday somewhere.
So, you already voted to take out the highway driveway out, which was $40,052.18. We went over on the neighborhood paving, it was $100,000.
Right.
So, you went over, they went over, he went over, a total of $42,587.16.
And that's it.
He told me the last bill was the Allstate bill, which just came in, and I added it to it. So,
Okay.
if you want to
So
vote for that to come out of recovery funds.
can you give us a recovery fund?
Yep, I can do that. I actually gave it to you somewhere.
I'm sure you did.
Last week.
Did
Yeah.
you? But you didn't have these numbers in it, I don't think.
No, I didn't have these numbers. Okay, here we are. No, I didn't add them in this one either because you didn't vote to do it. So, nope, this is not the recovery funds. This is the encumbered funds. Apologize. So you have,
No pressure.
no pressure.
Not in a hurry.
Okay, so the total recovery funds we have is 253, 244, 24. We've already voted 2.18 out of it. Okay, so before you vote on this 42,587, is it, or do you want me to take that out now?
No, please.
Okay, so right now you have 293,296.42 left.
How come we have 209?
Oh, I'm sorry, sorry.
Maybe 100.
I know, I did. 244.24.
I think we got about 110,000.
Minus the 40, 52.15.
Nope,
213.
213, right? I took another
213,
100,000.
192.06. Before you make this vote.
Okay, I'm gonna move that we pay out of the recovery funds $42,587.60.
And 60.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay. That will leave us, just as discussion, $213,000 as a balance. Okay.
Minus the 42,587.15 equals. Ugh, I don't like this calculator.
Okay, you got 253, 244. Right?
We already subtracted, the 213, 192 is with the driveway out.
Okay, so that brings us down to like 170.
Right. So just subtract it.
There's always a pen.
That's right. I'd rather do it that way.
Okay.
My head. Well, you can do it if you're.
Nope.
$170,604.90.
Yeah, okay. So we've got $170,000 left in that account. There's no money coming into that account ever more.
Nope,
That's it.
that's it.
Okay. I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks.
So that's 42. Okay.
And before we leave, walk me through this highway block rep, okay?
Walk you through it.
Walk me through it. On this page, I'm showing,
That's the letter they sent with us.
okay,
That is all their money, what they got, and they're splitting out.
okay, so that has nothing.
That has
to do
nothing
with
to do with us. The bottom page tells you what you receive, what we're receiving under Tufton Borough, and they'll tell you 70,000.
Okay, so we've already handled that,
Yes.
okay.
And you're also
Next
getting
year-
some bridge money too.
Right, next year, it's gonna be the same 70, or is it gonna go back to the 35, or, you don't know?
Who knows? They don't tell us.
Yeah, you're gonna anticipate the lower.
It all depends on how much money they
Take the
get. You
lower
should
for the high.
anticipate probably what averagely got before COVID.
Okay, so our primary purpose with Tyler today, he's coming in, right?
Mhm.
Is getting some kind of contractual agreement going on here, or we're gonna have to go through that whole process again. Because it looks as though we can't cover that warrant article without a contract.
Well, we don't need to encumber it before the 31st of December, do
No, that's gonna.
I understand
A lot
this.
faster
I
than
know.
you think.
we? I'm well aware of that, but again, we have a little time.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if we don't come to, even if we don't sign anything today,
Oh, no, we don't have to sign anything today. We
Starting
just
the discussion.
Set the time frame up so everybody
Yep.
understands what's going on.
Definitely.
If you do run another warrant article, if you make it non-lapsing, then you wouldn't have,
Yeah, and I don't believe the 19-mile pier was a non-lapsing warrant article.
it wasn't.
I don't know.
Oh, I looked it up, it did not say non-lapsing,
Okay,
so.
Anytime you don't say it, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
We good?
Perfect.
All right,
Thanks.
thank
Thanks
you.
for staying late. Next up is our police chief. He's busy disarming the local residents and bringing peace and prosperity to the land.
Okay.
Peace
Say-
and prosperity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that an active shooting event?
Oh, training.
Oh, training. I missed the first word.
Yes, please. That's important.
Jesus.
Yes, we're good for it.
Where do I live?
It can happen in Nickel Mine, Pennsylvania. It can happen anywhere.
It happened in Nickel
A
Mine?
few years back, it happened in Nickel Mines. It's like an Amish town with
Yeah.
like a small 1 or 2 room schoolhouse.
right?
Town of like 500 people, so.
Lost my agenda.
All right.
Felonies are up. Yep. Drugs.
No, I think, I'd have to look at it, but I'm pretty sure there are a lot of,
TVs.
no, we've had 2 or 3, 3 of them at least, are contractors that took money to do the job. And unfortunately, trying to get satisfaction is very difficult because county attorney doesn't seem to see that as theft by unauthorized taken or theft by deception. And as a deceptive business practice, for some reason, the AG's office is the only one that can do deceptive business practices under the statute. The only ones who can enforce that. And for some reason, these particular cases did not go to that. They didn't care. They didn't take them. They took another one recently.
So there's no relief.
That is not for those people, no.
So it's-
So that, well, they could go civilly, and 2 of them are going civilly. One of them has said
Right.
it's not worth it. So,
Yeah.
and one of them, at least one of these, well, both of these suspects are going around the state doing this, not just here, not just in
And on
Tuckahoe.
locals.
One was sort of local, but not in town here. He has bounced around houses since. He may have more of a defense than the other guy, but anyway, they're both seem to get charged in other places sometimes too. But that was at least 3 of them anyways.
So vehicle stops are still down,
Yep.
picking that pace up a little bit, I hope.
Well, we've been busy with other stuff, so that's kind of cut into it, unfortunately. We seem to be having a lot of neighbor disputes that we're getting sucked into, that they claim crimes in, and it takes a lot of
Right.
time.
Some of those sound like they're about to be a crime,
Yeah,
which I'm sure takes a lot of effort.
so that was almost 1 whole week for me between a couple different neighbor disputes a couple weeks ago, but, so hopefully we can start getting that back up. So, a couple updates. The new cruiser tentatively is scheduled to be upfitted the week of September 12th, provided all the parts come in by then. Old cruiser, the Charger out there, I submitted a thing for your approval for the sale.
Yes. We should have a minimum price on that.
Agree.
Okay,
Should put a minimum bid on it.
what were you thinking?
Where are we going? Wake me up to where we're going with it. Are we going online? Is that the?
I have to find it.
Well, just from experience, I've sold multiple vehicles at the county, and my first vehicle that I sold, I did not put a minimum bid in. We sold a wheelchair van for $900 because it was the only bid that came in, and 3 weeks later I saw it on Craigslist for $6,500. So
We're,
all the subsequent vehicles that I've sold, I've put a minimum bid on, and that has not posed a problem at all, selling vehicles.
What were you thinking for that?
yeah.
You should come up with a market value for the vehicle,
Okay,
a fair market value, and put in a minimum bid that's slightly less than that.
okay,
That would work.
okay.
Say, for example,
Are we putting it online? Is that what?
Well, it's gonna be, you said to put it on Craigslist, not to put it online like Gov Deals or something like that.
It's in one of those
Okay.
folders.
It's on the, it's in the signature block.
Craigslist it'll go on Craigslist. If, say, for example, the market value is $2,500, put in $2,000 for a minimum bid, see where it goes, especially in today's market.
Yeah. Okay. That's why I submitted it.
We don't want to give it away.
No,
Right, but remember it's a police vehicle, you gotta make note of that.
no, yeah, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
sold the cruiser.
I sold cruisers from the county.
Yeah.
Same
What they
way.
get for
As
those.
long as the buyer's aware of it. that's-
Yeah,
It's in the paperwork, clearly says former police cruiser.
yeah, I sold one for $5,500. I sold another one a couple months ago for $3,600.
See that miscellaneous revenue line just,
Yeah, bring it up a little bit. Can happen.
we'll see.
So I'll add a minimum to bid price to it.
So I'm noticing that accidents and incidents are dead even at the moment with 4 months to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had to look at that myself again, because I said, how do those end up the same? But they did.
So there's a potential for those to go up.
Or down.
Or, well, it can't go down once it's been done.
Incidents. is
No, no, no,
definitely
well,
The yearly average
As,
goes
yeah,
down.
exactly,
Yes.
for the end of the year.
At the end of the year,
we
it
did.
could go down.
So you had a, I'm sorry, you had more.
No, yeah, so,
You got a sign stolen off of.
radar sign, the old one,
Yeah.
that was stolen from Union Wharf Road. Was found, the posts and all were taken right out of the ground. I thought, of course, I put it there first when Adam lived across the street, but now, or diagonally from it. I tried to put those near where there are houses to kind of, for that very reason, and nobody seemed to notice anything. We have had over the last couple of weeks, so we have had some mailboxes smashed due to it.
You can't just bring in the usual suspects and rough them up a little bit.
Well, I kind of frown on that nowadays.
But LEDs aren't hot anymore, so it's really hard to put them under a hot light.
Yeah, I'm not sure, we got it back, it was found in Ospey, but Ospey hasn't found their sign yet either. So it's not just us that got hit, their sign got stolen too.
It's a crime spree then, I think is what they call that.
And theirs was like locked and metal cabinet and all, and that was gone. I'm not sure if it can be repaired, it looks, it's a possibility, I don't know. It's broken, the plexiglass is off it, I just don't know if you can get that part to fix it either.
Well, it's an insurable event.
Alright, we can talk to the insurance company about it.
Yeah, that might be deductible. What's our
It's like $1,000 deductible, I think, so.
You can't fix it. You have more than $1,000 worth of products in there.
Yeah, it was around $2,900 when we bought it.
Right.
2020 Cruiser, that's scheduled to be repaired at the end of September. That's the one that deer ran into the side. The 2016 Explorer, that might have an exhaust issue that nobody has the part, Ford doesn't have the part available to repair it, so may end up going to a custom exhaust part having to be made to put in there. It's real, yeah. Thought in the last few months somebody would have come up with a part, but nobody has it. So there, I mean, it is a possibility we might have to have that part like made for it. September 2nd, well, I met with the superintendent to go over to get a grant for safe schools, so kind of met with them to discuss what that was involving and what their plans are. And September 2nd, we're doing a walkthrough of the school. Obviously with Uvalde, there's more thoughts on people's minds as to what we need to be prepared for, and looking over that. I did send you and also the other thing I sent was like a list of noise ordinances through the county, just because someone has been saying that we have the same ordinance as everybody else, and to put that to rest, it's not the same as what everybody else has. But
And when does school open?
school, September 1st is like back to school, where the parents can come in the afternoon and with like new students, and then it actually opens on the 6th,
So the day after Labor Day.
day after Labor Day.
Is that school locked
Yes.
during the day?
Yes.
You have to push a buzzer, a button, and be let in?
Yes. It is, well, and you hope all the doors are locked, kept secured and locked. You know, nobody's trigged the door open because they're going
Right.
out back. But, so yes, it is kept locked during the day. It has a buzzer with a camera at the door. They moved that over the summer. That's been moved from the inner door to the outer door. And like I said, they've got some other issues to address that they're trying to work on with through this grant.
So you're meeting with the whole staff?
No, we're meeting the police department. We're walking through, looking at it just to see, you know, what the different doors are, locks, what we'll need, if we need to breach it, what we need to do and how to do that. Of course, part of their grant is to change some of the doors around, so that might.
So who's giving the staff instruction on how to?
That would be up to the superintendent principal to address that, if they would like something like CRACE, which is just done in Moultonborough, or which I went to, they're responding active shooting. I can get somebody in to help teach that, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd contact them and ask them if they would like to have you.
Yeah, they've all, I believe their staff is, we discussed this with the superintendent, has gone through ALICE training, which Sergeant Hathcock's an ALICE instructor, but now the state emergency management has gone towards alert. It's almost the same. It's, you know, run away, secure if you have to, fight back if you don't have any option there, but the first thing is to flee, get away from the shooter, but
I was
Three
thinking more,
things.
more along the lines of what your expectations should be about when you arrive.
Mhm.
You know, what your plan is when
Yeah.
you arrive, so that it's not complete chaos. I mean, it's probably chaos wherever you are, but. in that
Right, and
particular
that's
case.
something else the superintendent wants to do, is have kind of a meeting with all the fire, police chiefs in the district to have a discussion about those sorts of things, and what to
Right.
expect. And we'll have kind of a ongoing thing. She's from the Seacoast area, Northampton, Hampton area, Northampton, I guess, that area.
Is
I
there
think I just remind her that she's not gonna be on scene when it happens, if it
No,
happens.
yeah, no.
You're gonna be there and the teachers are gonna be there.
is there Prox card access? Is there card access to the
No,
exterior of the building?
no.
How would you get in?
I'd have to breach it in some way, or we do have a Knox box key.
You have the Knox box key?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the key to
The
the
fire
Knox
chief
box.
said, usually it's just the fire chief that has the
We
Knox.
have them too in each car.
Okay.
We have a Knox box key in every cruiser and a locked box. Only issue, well, the issue with the Knox box there is it's right by the bulkhead, which is by the old door window. So getting that exposes yourself. So I know the fire department has talked about putting another Knox box on the other side of the building, where it wouldn't be exposing yourself. But there is a Knox box, but they are looking, if they get this grant, there will be other options for access that might be better.
Good.
I don't wanna go into
I know.
security stuff for this,
I know.
for that, but that's one of the things I'm looking at is how to improve that. And to go with that, there is a state, so that's a state safety grant that's put through. I did also mention to the superintendent that I heard there's a state alert system that's being put in around schools. It's like a $5.8 million grant that Department of Education, Department of Safety are putting together to give them access to a button on like a cellular device or something that certain people within the school could touch and immediately alert that there's an incident going on. And it will provide quite a bit of data to the responding officers through dispatch to what's happening and floor plans and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and we've got a pretty small department, so hopefully the state troopers would show up and the county would show up, or whoever's gonna help us out, because there's only 4 of you. But I think one of the major deterrents, hopefully, or partially deterrent, is having a plan, and having the plan be recognized in the community. So, I mean, I
Right,
think a lot of these things happen because they don't think you have a plan. You know, they're just gonna wing it.
You know, that's always, well, since Columbine in '99, it's always been something in the forefront of my mind. That's, you know, of course, there's a smaller student population now than there was back then, but that's probably the place with the highest concentration of people that are vulnerable, if you will, and a concentration of probably the valuable building in the town too, as far as replacement costs. So, and then maybe the fire department, the equipment in it, but so it's something I've always paid attention to, is that and it's near the center of town, and have, you know, we've done training in the past, we've try to keep up with it, you know, as to what we need. I'm looking at, after Uvalde, I'm looking at different, perhaps what we need for equipment to see changes there.
Well, keeping them out of the building is,
Right, to delay them so that we have a chance to interdict them, but it's not. Hopefully, if they get this grant, they can do some of the security stuff that should check off the remaining issues that were, or concerns, I shouldn't say issues, but concerns raised when they had their safety audit. I think it tackles almost all of them.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's pretty much it.
Everybody's healthy?
Yep. Right now.
Okay. Do we have any other, I know you and I talked separately about parking at the beach. We've had some chat about parking restrictions, or people wanting parking restrictions. And Guy, I think, had a different position on the fishing at Melbourne Pier and the signage. The signage is incorrect, so you've got to change the sign, change the policy, or do something. So
The signage says that, you know, it closes at dusk, which, you know, up until recently was, close to 9 o'clock anyways.
right. But the regulation that we voted on as selectmen doesn't say dusk.
No, it doesn't say dusk,
it's
it's
just
10
as
o'clock.
parking.
10 o'clock.
And just, doesn't say beach is closed, it just says no parking.
Well, the sign says closed at dusk.
The sign, that's what he's saying, the
Yeah,
sign,
yeah, yeah.
the sign's wrong.
I'm just saying
And
that,
there's nothing to back it up legally.
Well, I think what is probably more important for us is just to get some consistency going.
Yes.
Agree on what it is we want to have.
Right.
I mean, the season's kind of playing itself out here.
Oh, yes, it's dying slowly.
We've got 2 more meetings, or 1 more meeting before the end of the summer. So it's kind of like a lot of things in town, they just sort of, the seasons will adjust activities more than anything else. But I still think we need to make a point of reviewing the signage and make sure it's at least currently the same as the regulation. Okay?
yep,
And what's the other thing I was gonna ask you?
Belknap? we're not doing security detail at Belknap anymore.
No, good. For a while.
And that's, I think they ended their camp program this past weekend, didn't
Well, yeah, but they have a program this week, so they had somebody do, Wolfboro's doing the traffic today. They have a 1-week program today, but it's just the traffic to make sure there's not a issue on Chase Point Road.
they? Okay, and there was a lady in about Eaglemere. Did you get involved in that?
There was, you mentioned to me about there's some flagging out in the woods.
Right.
I haven't had a chance to go check it out.
Okay, she didn't come and see you.
She didn't come and see us that I'm aware of now.
Okay,
Came to see me.
yeah.
It's not an intent to cut. Well, I'm
Okay.
sorry, it is. And it's owned, all those flags are owned by the same person.
She thinks it's owned by her.
Not.
Okay, so is she mollified?
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Okay.
God, we're solving problems. I like
It
it.
just happens.
All right. Anything else for the chief?
I'm all set.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Next up is Rachel. How do you say your last name, Rachel?
Eads,
Eads.
Yeah.
E-A-D-E-S.
exactly. One syllable.
Hi there,
Hi.
I'm Bob, we spoke on the phone.
Yeah, nice to meet you in person.
And you're from Revision Energy?
Revision Energy. You must be Cami.
I am.
Thank you
Nice
for
to meet
all
you.
your help.
You're welcome.
So Chip, nice to meet you. Guy, nice to meet you as well.
Definitely. Thank you for
Meeting
coming.
you in person, yeah. So feel free to take the lead on this. I know I've reviewed the conversation with Bob, what we might be talking about today, but
Okay.
if your thinking has
I
changed
don't know
on
if you
when
got
here.
this.
Yes, well, I made it.
I think
so-
She sent that to us. I just printed it for her.
All right, so you,
I kind of,
excuse me.
I took what you told me,
Yeah,
I made the phone call.
right.
Her and Cammy set up the meeting with some information that I provided, hence that presentation, and
Yep.
here we are.
So you know all the properties, you know the lines.
Kind of.
Um,
So I was prepared to introduce myself first,
Sure.
because I know we've spoken, but yeah, my name's Rachel and I come from Revision Energy, so we are one of the largest solar installers in New Hampshire. I'm based in our Brentwood office. We also have one in Enfield, covering the Upper Valley, and then 2 in Maine and 1 in North Andover, Mass. Been around since 2003, employee-owned company, so I'm actually one of 360-ish employee owners of the business. And we're number 1 rated solar installer in the state, and installed about 12,000 clean energy systems in the state. So we like to think we're pretty good at what we do, pretty proud of it. But I personally work on our commercial team, so with towns, schools, nonprofits, and businesses. We also have a residential division and a service division taking care of all the systems that exist after they're online. So hopefully can help you guys think through what a renewable energy project might look like for the town of Flushing. So thanks to Bob for sending the usage over. That's always a great place to start. And as prep for this meeting, I just did a little bit of work from kind of publicly available information online, but I'd love to hear from you guys more what your goals are, and then we can start to talk through some of the details, because a lot of this is quite preliminary, right? And I included one example, a fire station which I actually drove by, and I see it's a lovely park where I've drawn some solar panels, but just to give you an idea of like, okay, what could a sketched out project that would offset the town's usage look like? So yeah, happy to be as top line or as detailed as you want. We can talk about the tech aspect or the financing, whatever interests you
Well,
at this stage.
Chip was talking about doing individual buildings. I'm talking about net metering, having a larger field, say up at the transfer station, doing some kind of a net metering situation. There's also incentives
Yep.
that you're going to be talking about,
Sure.
that a municipality can't take advantage of these incentives unless it's a lease purchase.
Yeah,
agreement,
well,
correct?
yes and no. Actually, the Inflation Reduction Act that was like literally just passed a week ago opens up huge doors for non-tax paying entities. So as you're aware, up until last week, the federal incentives for solar are through tax credits, which are great if you pay taxes, but if you're a town who doesn't pay taxes, they're not much good to you. So what the Inflation Reduction Act has done is for non-tax-paying entities, they've now created a rebate to the same value as the tax credit. So it's 30% of the project cost is the investment tax credit, and if you don't pay taxes, it's now a rebate straight from the government. So the good news there is you guys are now able to access it as if it were a tax credit, instead it'll just be a check from the government. With that being said, there remain a number of different mechanisms. So that would be direct ownership. You would pay for the remaining 70% of the system. There's also loans and then power purchase agreements. And that's the one I think you're referring to, where an investor owns it, so they can take the tax credit and you buy the power from them.
Right.
And then after year 6, once they've taken all their tax credits, you can either remain in the power purchase agreement, just purchasing electricity if that suits you, because they take care of all the operations, maintenance, things like that, or you'd have the opportunity to buy it out at a much lower price because those tax credits have been taken. So there's kind of 3 different avenues for ownership now, and one of those was literally just unlocked like a week ago. So it's very exciting. I mean, overall, it's the most historic climate investment in history, not just for solar, like for all kinds of clean technology, but that has a real material effect, you know, from when we spoke to now. It's kind of opened up additional options to be whatever might suit the town best.
In deference to Bob, I know he's looking for a bigger system with net metering. I don't think the net metering legislation or the wording of net metering contracts is very clear, and it's really not as advantageous as I make this and you pay me the same as you pay Canadian Hydro. They don't do it that way. So I'm a little more interested in, we pay $31,000 for electricity annually, let's say. How much of that can we get rid of by creating our own? And how much does it cost? And I don't think we're not in a position to have to finance. But if we do it, and we can look at it all different ways, I'm not trying to steal it, but our smaller individual projects may be easier for us to separate our funding, if you will. With the 30% cash rebate, it might be just as easy to do all of them. But primarily it was, in my mind anyway, and we all have an equal say, was this building, the transfer station, the fire station. Those 3.
Yeah, well, those from that first page of your little handout there, the usage, they're the ones that stand out. I didn't know if there's anything, I mean, just driving through town, like the library, if there's any other little bits and pieces, but those certainly by a long shot seem to be the biggest users. And with solar, I mean, the new fire station stands out because it's a new building, so it's presumably going to have a roof that's nice and structurally sound and in good condition, and it also has some land nearby. And you get the best value when you can situate solar, what we call behind the meter. So feeding directly into an energy user. And since that's your biggest energy user in town, that's going to be your best value project, probably on average, because every kilowatt hour that goes straight from solar into the building, before it even gets to the grid, that's just full value kilowatt hours you didn't have to buy from the co-op, as opposed to sending them excess to the grid and then getting credited that metering value.
Right.
So the co-op is a little bit different, so they publish their rates online and they change more often. The other big semi-regulated utilities change about twice a year. So the co-op net metering rate, the really good thing about utility rates getting higher and higher is that the net metering value sort of tracks. It's kind of a percentage of the full kilowatt hour value, so you are getting paid more as well as utility prices go up. But yeah, if it's possible to link an array behind that new fire station or behind potentially this building or the transfer station, your other 2 big energy users, that will be your best value, because everything you use behind that meter before it even gets to the grid is just complete avoided cost. So that's where I would start our thinking, and then if we have to branch out. So on page 2, so page 1, first thing I did was look at your usage, which was super helpful, so thanks for sending that. Also, because for the co-op,
I don't see the library on here.
yeah, I didn't see a library, and if there's any other, like, I don't know, spare bills. Also the option, because you have a school in town,
We don't own the school.
yeah, but potentially, if we needed more usage, say, to do like a landfill array or something, you could potentially loop in the school.
Yeah, it's a,
That's located within the same municipal bounds, so because it's in Tufton Borough. Anyways, it's literally outside. If we had an awesome piece of land that needed more usage to kind of use up the generation, we could potentially loop in the school if it's within town of Tufton Borough, so the elementary school, but not, say, Kingswood, because that's in a different.
well, it's all the same Governor Wentworth Regional School District, so we have a lot, we have no financial, other than taxes, we don't have any financial interest in that.
Okay,
That elementary school belongs to Kingswood.
Right.
yeah, okay.
I mean,
So you're,
I would think that, you know, we could talk about if we're gonna build more capacity of feeding it into our welfare account or something like that to benefit just local citizens as opposed to trying to bring the school into it. But we use 113,000 kilowatt hours, that's what it appears to me, in those three areas.
oh, across those three, yeah.
What's a kilowatt hour cost for solar?
To build,
Yeah.
it's slightly different, so it's, kilowatt hours is what they generate. So for example, to produce around 130,000, which is like, plus those little tiny meters there,
Yeah.
you'd want to build, so actually if you answer that question, you flip to the last page, where I've just done a little, well, sorry, do you mind if I back up one step, because these pages kind of go in order, so it might make more sense. So first step was, I looked at your usage to say, okay, how much do we need to offset town of Tufton Borough usage, 100%. Which maybe that's not your goal, but it's a nice goal, and the town's not that big, so it's pretty achievable.
There's nothing wrong with that being a goal.
Yeah. So that's what we're targeting, that 130,000-ish kilowatt hours. So the next thing I did, and this is something that you guys can also help with, is think about what areas does the town own. So town ownership of the property would be important. So first, check those three big locations to see was there ground or rooftop available and that might be suitable for solar. And then also just had a little quick spin around on the maps. So that 34 County Road, there's no usage on that site, but if we were looking for a big field that was owned by the town, I don't know exactly what's there, but on satellite it looks like a pretty big open field.
I don't know of anything owned by the town.
Hopefully we'll have some good options to get with this behind the meter project, but I did want to open our thinking to potential sites. As long as the town owns it, it could potentially.
Where did 34 County Road come from? I mean, where did you get these properties?
Just on your website, the list of tax
Okay.
properties, if you search by owner, just town of Tufton Borough, and I just
This might be a
quickly
lean property.
searched them.
Yeah, I think 34 County Roads, not town owned anymore.
Yeah.
Not town owned anymore. Okay, so from whatever your latest
Actually, now
tax
that I look at it,
map-
I know it's not, because I recognize the bullshit, okay? That one's out.
Okay, cool. That's why we're here, to narrow this down. So any properties though like that, I mean, I didn't look through every single one. So if we do want to think beyond these three buildings, like say for some reason, those three big users weren't suitable, we could open our thinking to anything else town owned. And for that thinking, if it's rooftops, well, sorry, so on this list, on page 2, just kind of what makes an ideal solar site. So does the town own it? Is there any usage on site, which is always great? And then if it's a ground site, is it flat, is it dry, so wetlands can be a problem. Is it close to 3-phase power? You can fit more in 3-phase than you can on single phase. And then for roofs, you know, is it in good condition? Is it new? Is it basically just not north facing? So east is okay, west, south is great. And then, the other little pointers on there. But that's kind of the thinking. If you have your usage, what could match it? These types of locations.
Okay.
And then, as an exercise on the last page there, I just said, okay, what if we did a ground-mounted array, roughly the right size to offset all the town's usage, and we tied it in next to the fire station, which I know it's a park, so you may not want to do that.
Yeah, there's other property there that could be utilized.
Yeah, the closer to the building, the better.
Just have trees on them.
Yeah, and I see that property actually goes way back. Obviously, tree clearing comes with added cost, so putting it in already cleared areas cheaper. Shorter wire runs back to the building are cheaper. You have less efficiency losses, like the longer you run electricity over a wire, you do lose some voltage over long distances, and just the cost of trenching. So close to the building is good, but not essential. And then that roof is actually pretty big. I didn't do a roof design for the purposes of this, but certainly one we could look at. So you're asking, the big question, how much do these things cost? That's always something we could tell you in a lot more detail once, say I haven't been to that building other than just driving by. So once we had a look at it, but in and around $420,000 for that size array, for a ground mount.
For 130,000.
420,000.
For
Oh, 130,000
Oh, sorry, kilowatt hours.
kilowatt hours, okay.
Ish. Like again, I haven't been to that site. I don't know if there's extra added cost or maybe less cost. That's sort of taking an average ground mount of that size. And so your payback would totally depend on.
So that's $4 a kilowatt hour?
Yeah, which is pretty conservative, but that being said, like I'm sure, I don't know if the towns have taken any other construction projects recently. The cost of materials is only going up, cost of labor, so we are not immune from that, unfortunately, like any other construction industry. So that would be realistic, that $4 a watt. But like I said, very rough numbers, and something that if we wanted to dial in a more specific project, go to the site, get you a much more specific proposal. But that's the kind of number you should be thinking. I mean, you're building a power plant. It's going to last 25 to 40 years.
a ground-mounted system would be bigger and more efficient to build, less expensive to build than it would be to build multiple individual sites.
Not necessarily. It would depend. One site is definitely cheaper than 3 sites, just the cost of setting up an equipment going to 3 sites versus being in one place. Roofs, on average, across like all the work we do, roof-mounted arrays tend to be cheaper because you already have structure to put the arrays on, whereas the ground mount, you're building the structure.
But to have real estate on the roof to satisfy the needs of a building, like the fire station, that's a pretty big roof.
Oh, 25,000 kilowatt hours, how many square feet is that?
I don't know square footage, but for example, I had a quick look at this building, again on satellite, not having seen it till I walked in, and you could offset this building usage with this roof space, probably, on 3 different roof surfaces, the one or 3 that kind of face out.
So you got $100,000 to do this building, you got 30% rebate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're down to 70 grand. In round numbers,
Yeah.
okay, for a roof mounted system. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get a handle on. I mean, I don't know that
Yeah.
I don't know, but you guys might know. Are we ready to present a $500,000 warrant article to solarize the village? Or are we ready to spend $70,000 of our ill-gotten gains from federal grants and do this one building?
I'm in favor of solar.
Yeah.
I think it's got a good payback. It's got a great return on investment. It's proven to last. It's going to last longer than I'm going to be alive, and I'm the youngest one here. So, yes. Maybe not her, but it's going to outlive me. So.
Yeah, from a political perspective, which I happen to have lived through for 6 years now, I think if we could get one going, getting the other $300,000 that we need to do the rest of them would be a lot easier. I mean, we've got to
Kind of like a pilot project.
Yeah, we got to leap here. I'd like
Test
to
the waters.
solarize the whole town and just make it happen, but we don't get to spend money willy-nilly. We actually have to ask our taxpayers if they'll give it to us.
No, but I think the math is there. I think the math can be demonstrated, and if you're going to do it, I think we should do it. I don't think we should do it willy-nilly and do one this year and one next year. I think if we're going to do it, we should do it.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Any guy? I don't know if
I would say nothing to be thought a fool.
I guess I guess we'll have to continue this discussion, because we don't have $500,000.
No.
We get 130 grand back. So what you're suggesting is we prepare for March and present a whole town effort for solar.
Well, I think she needs to present both net metering with the ground mounted field, something large, like up at the recycling center, something that will,
Is that a landfill next to the transfer
Yeah.
station?
yeah.
Yes, it is. My question would be, the array gets built on the capped landfill, and then we become a Superfund site for groundwater reclamation, which is already seeping out, although no one wants to admit it. What happens to the array?
Well, a couple things. One, building on a landfill is more expensive than regular ground mounts because you actually don't penetrate the cap. We use a ballast, so a giant stone or concrete, because you don't want to mess with that
Right.
cap. Building on building on landfills is certainly a great solution because it's not really property you can do anything else with. Like, you're not going to build a building on there. It's very limited use, so it is a way to turn it into an income generating asset for the
And there's
town.
3-phase power up there.
Yep.
Although we
They're
might have
also-
to build a building on it, if we're gonna do groundwater reclamation.
Yeah, I think
And there aren't many capped landfills that haven't run into that problem, and ours
Yeah.
certainly will.
the Inflation Act that just passed, there's actually an extra incentive if you are willing to tackle brownfield site projects. Not all landfills are classified as brownfield sites, but because it's so challenging, the federal government's recognized that, and they'll actually give you an adder to the investment tax credit / rebate to take on brownfield site projects. So it's something they're certainly incentivizing, so I don't think it would be a problem in that sense. But the added cost would certainly be something to flag, particularly given your size. So these projects tend to work at much larger, like megawatt scale. But at the size we're talking about for you guys, the added cost of even just landfill permitting actually is one of the biggest time and money hurdles at the moment in New Hampshire. Like, there's only one active solar landfill. There's a lot more in Maine, for example, that made a clear permitting pathway. Like, we've built, I think we have 7 online and another, maybe 6 or 7 in the pipeline. But in New Hampshire, they've been very challenging. We have some in progress, but I wouldn't say it's going to be cost effective for you guys to build on the landfill. The transfer station does seem to have a bit more land around that building, so that could potentially be an option, but
We
cost-wise.
don't own all that land anymore.
Okay, but even,
Oh, we don't
Hold
want
on a bit.
to do it.
Do
I
we
think
own
there is a
some?
transfer station image on the second page there.
I don't know.
The shape of the property, even just like in that corner there, potentially. To offset the town usage, you actually don't need that much space. Like, in the scheme of, in my world, where we're building megawatt-sized projects, like, it's actually not that much space, which is great. Again, you don't want to be on top of any septics, things like that, where you can't drill in. You want tree shading, is an important factor to consider, so you can't be right up against trees, like you could on the north side. So site selection, I think, will be important for you guys, but in terms of taking it to the voters, I can send you guys some sample warrant articles that, we've worked with a bunch of different towns, and kind of hit the sweet spot of getting people's blessing to go have a solar, but also not being too specific, because then it gives you flexibility to find that perfect site. And in terms of payment mechanisms, the PPA ends up being an attractive option. Most every town we work with goes to the PPA because of that no upfront cost.
There's no cash out of pocket.
Exactly, so there's nothing, sort of, instead of paying the co-op, you're paying an investor for the solar electricity.
And the PPAs are good for what, 7 years?
Well,
And then we have the option?
yeah, so they're usually 20 to 25 year terms, but anytime after year 6, you have the option of buying it out yourselves.
Right.
You don't have to, it could be year 7 or 8, and it kind of gives towns or nonprofits that lead time to either fundraise or organize a bond, however you were going to be planning to pay for it, and that cost at year 6 is lower than the.
It's a fun
Yes,
savings, though. I've looked at those agreements,
Hmm.
and it's a great way to do it without having to take any money out of your pocket.
Yeah,
But you don't save any money, really. And
it's
and
minimal
some
until you own it.
Some of them, they actually cost you more than they would have if you owned it originally. And we have virtually no debt here. And we've got $1.5 billion worth of taxable property, so it's, and annually we run a couple of $1 million worth of warrant articles. So it seems as if $500,000 is out of the picture, if that's what the board ends up doing. But I have to take a look at your payment purchase agreements before I have any vote on that at all. Because everyone I've seen, and I know Bob works over at the county, I was there before he was and looked at this once back then, and maybe it's all changed, it's all better. But there really wasn't a lot of benefit. It was really because, one, you didn't want to ask taxpayers for money, and two, you didn't mind debt. And at any rate, I guess what we need to have is a little more firm proposal on the two approaches. One would be Bob's of doing a major, let's put something in and just generate a bunch of power. And one, if you would, do one just on this building. Because I'm going to continue to try to lobby for the idea of getting part of it done. As an example, a pilot project.
Pilot project isn't out of my realm.
I mean, if we could cut the
Acceptance.
current power usage at this building by, say, 75%.
Well, the fire station is the biggest user of power.
Yes, and
And
that's
at well over twice the, this building.
met resistance in the past.
The other
Building on
element-
top of the fire station's not resistant?
Definitely, and actually building in the park.
Okay. So you looked at this previously and that was it?
Well, they use the ground that's around it, all that
Well,
mowed.
the other thing we have to look at there is what impact is that cell phone tower going to have,
Right.
road-wise and utility and all that.
It's true, that isn't even built
The
yet.
other thing is remember what we did the first element of this meeting was how much money do we have sitting there?
Mhm.
And I just did the quick math, and we don't have enough money to do the fire station. Cash out of pocket. That's why I chose this building as opposed to, that was my motivation.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is all
That's good.
just today, too.
If it makes financial sense, I'm in. I don't want to ask I don't want to ask the taxpayers for money to do this.
Yeah, if we can do it out of grant money, that's the way we should do it.
Grant money or PPA, I'm not opposed. As
Okay.
long as
I'm
the
not gonna shut that conversation
as
down.
long as the math works.
So just as long as you know where I'm coming from to begin
Mhm.
with, so I don't want you guys feeling like I've bamboozled you with a false opinion. I just don't. I don't like those arrangements, but my mind could be changed as well.
As long as you agree to look at the math,
Yeah, definitely,
that's all.
definitely.
Yeah, we can certainly take you through both, like I'm happy to explain
Okay.
either one in more detail, and I agree when we're talking more specifics, it probably will make more sense as opposed to
Right.
at the moment hypothetical. The town office building totally makes sense, and actually, if you don't mind, after we finish up here, I might just snap a few photos
Sure.
of the roof
Absolutely.
and maybe of your utility panel, if it's around here somewhere.
Yeah, it's downstairs.
That will help me understand if you need to upgrade anything in order to accommodate the solar. And as far as a ground mount for 100% offset, that sort of theoretical exercise, of the town properties off the top of your head, are there any, I know you said fire station field has actually met resistance in the past, so maybe that's not the best. I know I did that as an exercise because it's your biggest energy user, so it's a good place to start. But if that doesn't feel like it would be the best, where's my next best
Well,
place from your perspective?
How much space do you need for that much kilowatt hour production?
It's about 2 acres per kilowatt, right?
No, I mean, totally depends. I don't know the measurements of that I just did there. You don't need that much. I could measure that on the software and tell you. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Or megawatt, I did 2 acres per megawatt, excuse me.
For kilowatt?
Yeah, so for like,
Acres per
well,
megawatt.
I mean, like the classic answer for solar projects is like, it depends. I'm just thinking of recent projects. But I think if you had an unshaded, already flat area, it wouldn't necessarily have to be that big. The closer to usage, the better. So, I mean, I don't know, the back of here, maybe the back of it, you have lovely, I'm not talking about the graveyard or the
This is
beautiful
all-
gardens.
This is all cemetery, garden,
Yeah, so not here, but if there's any other town building,
Is there
because
an,
the only other attractive piece, even connecting in behind one with quite low usage, is you're already connecting into existing electrical infrastructure, which sometimes can save you dropping.
is there an acre up at the recycling center that doesn't have refuse underneath it?
Probably.
That we could find an acre to build something on? Because that's all we need is an acre.
Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah,
When
we
I had
can
a
go-
quick look
We
at-
can move the, we can
sort
move,
of to the east of the landfill.
yeah, we can move the swap shop.
Yeah.
You know, if you just take that out, you can get an acre put together.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, not even the swap shop, even the green building that Dennis uses on that side of the right side of the road as you're coming in.
It's not, it'd be long and skinny, real long and skinny, because the
Yeah.
property line's
do
just
you,
past
do
that.
you ever do
The trackers.
yeah,
We have in the past. We don't do them very often, but we do on occasion, simply because they've got moving parts, and one of the great things about solar is it doesn't have moving parts, and so the operations maintenance is very low, less things can go wrong. And what trackers can really do is capitalize on both ends of the day, so early morning and later in the evening. So you want, but if you have a lot of shading, sort of a moot point. If you have a very open site and not a lot of space, trackers can have a lot of production. But I mean, lovely wooded town.
well, I'm thinking of the transfer station, there's not a lot of shade up there. So, and if we
You
could
get
find
great
some-
southern exposure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, so the answer is we do, but not very many of them. It's not sort of the bulk of what we do. Some companies will specialize in those, and they're part of our portfolio, but they don't often end up being the best choice.
And I think people would be less inclined to be against it if it was up at the recycling center. We're not polluting the landscape with solar panels. There's an eyesore issue if we do it right around here. If it's not on a building, if we do ground mount around here, people are going to object.
well, we can't do ground out here.
No, I know that. I'm just
What about the rooftop here? Are you in a historic district ring that might prevent rooftop?
No, we'll talk with that work.
That's actually not that historic. This building up front might be a little bit historic.
Yes.
But that's,
from this
From the
from here
90s.
that way is not.
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool, so nothing in existence?
And we don't have a historic ordinance of any kind.
Okay, cool.
No, whatever the state has is all we have.
Right.
I don't know what they have.
I think it'd be fine.
And I don't know, do we have three
And I-
phase out on the street here? I don't know if we have. I don't know if we have three phase out on the
I
street.
think Wolfboro has a historic district, but we don't.
No, three phase.
Oh, three
Three
phase,
phase.
yeah, it's three phase.
Trying to see the top of the front end.
Right?
Actually, if I look at your meter, I'll be able to tell.
And just to go back to building on the land, I mean, I actually owned a property that was a landfill in Rochester. We went through the brownfields program that cost me, I don't know, $250,000 to get some kind of clearance for building. But it wasn't so much the money, which I recouped by selling the property, which I couldn't sell because it was a brownfields.
Mhm.
It was the time. I mean, DES moves at a glacial pace
I
sometimes.
think we're aware of that.
Yeah.
And then they change their minds halfway through. So I just think it complicates things if we wanted to try to build on top of the actual land. But
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it for you guys just for the size you're trying to offset. It's
Yeah.
not gonna be cost effective.
Unless you can find an acre that doesn't have any trash under it.
But the land,
Oh, no,
At least-
there isn't any trash underneath anything but the landfill. The rest of that got cleaned up back in the day.
okay, so if I look at the transfer station, other than the landfill, there's land to the
Right.
east, and potentially some of those buildings sound like they might be semi-movable.
Movable.
Yeah, most
If
of
it's a
it,
Connex
Or
box,
sort of
it's
like-
movable.
anything that looks
Shipping
like a
container
container,
size
Yeah.
things, yeah,
they move.
okay.
And you can reconfigure too. I
Mm.
mean, if it all had to go where the metal pile is, for instance, we could move the metal to somewhere else. I mean, it's not that hard to do. But if we could get a figure on those, a more concise figure on it, it would be great.
Yeah.
And depending on how soon would you get that back to us, do you think?
So I think if you want a pretty dialed in detailed figure, I would need to see the building. So I'm here today, which is great. There's probably no one at the transfer station.
No, but they're open tomorrow.
5:30. Potentially, I actually am up this area again tomorrow. But what I could also do is take a look at it on satellite and then let you guys know, okay, these are the variables that I would need answered, you know, what's the size of the service, something like that, and it might just be someone's able to answer that question. And probably can turn that around pretty quickly, like by end of next week, I would say.
I'm not seeing three-phase out on
For
the
just a
street here,
proposal,
just so you know. I'm not
I
seeing
don't know that we
three-phase.
don't use three-phase.
No, I'm not seeing it out on the pole out
What
there.
is the benefit of,
it's not essential for, well, it doesn't be essential for rooftop here. This, you can, the utilities will only allow you to backfeed so much into the lines, and single phase, one line, the co-op would tell you, so we would apply for a connection, and they would tell you what they cap it at, but you wouldn't be able to do much over 100 kilowatts on single phase, whereas on three phase you can build as big as you want, just more capacity. But I think the size we're talking, this building being on single phase is totally fine. It's more like if you wanted to build a massive,
yeah, and
Right.
the transfer station is on three-phase, I mean, the compactors are
it
on
must be,
three-phase.
it usually
is.
would be,
All
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, so I think those are actually great locations to look at, transfer station and this building.
Okay, next question, maybe the last one, I don't know. So you come back to us with a number, we bang it around, tune it up a little bit, and then how fast can you do it?
Well, it depends on your process. So if you guys need voter approval,
No, let's assume that we don't need voter approval for one of the options.
okay,
So it's just three of us are gonna approve it.
yeah.
How soon do you do it?
Not quicker than a year
Okay.
from, okay, contract signed, we go. Applying for utility interconnection is actually one of the longest lead items, like that's running 4 or 5 months at the moment. The development work, engineering, the actual time on site would only be a matter of weeks. We'd only be up on the roof for a week at this site, maybe at a ground site for a couple weeks. But everything else involved,
Fix that.
12 to 18 months, yeah.
Okay, so that would be the same no matter whether we did everything or we just did this building? The
Yeah.
timeframe?
Yep. Well, the smaller the project, they do get processed through more quickly. Like the co-op, for example, I think if you go over 37 kilowatts, it triggers for them a site impact study. So actually at 25 kW, you might actually be real quick through their system.
Okay.
So smaller projects do happen faster than larger ones. All sides tend to do more due diligence, as they should for a big electrical project.
Do we know when if these are the original shingles on this roof, or if this roof has been done recently?
I don't know that.
Because if they're old shingles, we want to talk about, you don't want to put a solar system on top of old shingles.
Right.
That's true.
You want to re-roof before you did it, so you get the maximum life before you have to do it.
Yeah, that would
Jack
actually
should know that.
Yeah, I can remember that.
great for you, if you guys could find that out and let me know. And also for your own thinking in terms of cost, but you're dead right, the panels, they're warranted for 25 years, their commercial lifespan's considered 40 years, so you don't want to be paying to remove them and reinstall them. So make sure the roof's in good condition. They do kind of protect the roof, but they also don't cover every inch of the
No,
roof.
it would really suck to put up a solar system and then 2 years down the road find out we gotta roof it again.
Yeah, and it is part of our process, like after a contract, one of the first things we do is have a structural engineer look at the roof before we do anything else to answer that question, and we use a third-party structural engineer to just give the objective okay, but you wouldn't want to take all this time and not knowing you have a really old roof kind of thing, so exploring that early would be really helpful, but it could just be a case of, yeah, reshingling, something like that.
So we got 5 months to get it done,
Yeah,
or more, by the sounds of it.
yeah. You have some time. Unfortunately, we will not be here tomorrow with trucks and install crews.
So when you get all those things together for us, and you'll provide us with a sample contract as well? So we know what we need.
Yep,
need to
I can do that, yeah.
Great.
And what about your process in general? I know you said, like, imagine we could just press go tomorrow.
Well, if you could put it up before snow flies this year, we could probably just do it.
Do you need to get warrant approval though for this type of thing, or is it that's for you to figure out in the,
Get what approval?
like a warrant article for
No, not
solar.
unless we need to get the taxpayer to pay for it.
Okay,
So
That's
currently we
your-
have an accumulation of federal grant money that we're gonna spend on something. And you may be that something, but if it's gonna take 5 or 6 months, you may not be that something. If Bob prevails, you definitely won't be that something. Although we might use some of that money in that language of the warrant article.
I'm not pushing either direction,
Yeah.
just so you know. I just want to do what's best for us and for the taxpayer, period.
Right, absolutely.
I just want to make sure, that the options are looked at.
Right, so that when we're asked, we can say, yeah, we did this because of this.
Right.
I appreciate that.
and having an existing solar array doesn't preclude you from doing a phase 2 or some future array. Yeah, so having it on town hall wouldn't stop you from doing a fire station later or something like that. The only thing you wouldn't want to do, that would be very cost effective, is to do like part of a ground mount and then add on to it. It'd be more effective to do it all in one go. But yeah, nothing's stopping you from doing a pilot and then saying everyone loves it, solar's great, our taxes went down, everyone's happy, we do more.
Or even our electrical usage went down, everybody's happy.
Yeah, so the only thing to note when you do have a solar array, your supply is coming from the sun, which is awesome, but you will have standing charges, like just for having a meter from the co-op, they'll continue to charge you for that. So some people think they completely won't have utility bills, so you will still get a bill,
To cut
but the
the line.
supply charges will be totally, potentially 100% offset by sunshine, but things like demand charges or any of those other standing charges from the co-op will remain, so just heads up.
And just to go further on a little bit, do car charging devices require a different, are they 3-phase, for instance, or?
Nope, they can be whatever you want, everything from the same as a wall plug to a DC fast charger you see on the side of the highway. Do you have any plans to add those here to this building?
No, I'm just thinking of revenue
Yeah.
possibilities. I mean, if
Yeah.
this is, there's gonna become more and more demand for the stations. I know Wolfboro's looking to put in some in somewhere down by the train station, I think.
They're
So-
already in.
Are they already in?
Yeah, but they got a grant. They didn't have to pay for it.
Right, but and there's gonna be more and more demand. I think you still have to pay for the power, it's not free if you
Right.
charge up there.
The end user pays for the power.
Right, so I just was asking if the array you put up has to be any different because you're putting, say, 3 solar chargers on the parking lot.
No, only that if you had plans for it, we might size the array to be bigger to cover the added electrical demand of people charging their cars there.
Okay.
So your usage might go up. But technically there's nothing, I mean, it's just like any other device calling for electricity.
Okay.
That the array would be feeding, and anything that's not used in real time gets sent to the grid and you get credited for that. And then anything you do use in real time, as I said, is that full value, that's a kilowatt hour you didn't have to buy from the co-op at full price.
Right,
Right?
okay.
Very
Right,
informative.
so from you guys, if you could send me, if you can find out about this roof, anything you know
Yeah,
about the
aging
condition,
roof.
aging condition, and let me walk around after this meeting and take a photo. Is there, I didn't get the name of the person who was at the front. They know where the electrical panel is and might let me take a photo of it. And the
Is
meter.
anybody still here?
No one's here,
I don't know. All right, well, in that case, do you guys know where it is? I can,
unless we lose our secretary for a minute.
just to be efficient, while I'm here.
Want to take a,
Yeah, let's take
5-minute
a
recess?
5-minute recess. Are you okay
Okay.
with that time?
Good.
And then I might, is the train station locked when you drive in? Or
What?
the train station, is it, is that the gate locked?
you can drive down Partway, then you hit a gate, and then you're on your feet after that. You can go.
Would they think I was creepy wandering around the
No.
transportation,
No, we can tell.
after hours?
We can tell the
Bring some
police.
trash.
I have a branded car, so at least they'll maybe know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean,
They won't be calling the police next door on
No, I
the,
think you have our permission to do that.
Yeah.
okay, I might, it's, yeah,
Still
what do you mean?
daylight.
I mean, yeah, hey, if it's of interest to you guys, let's get it while we're here.
Great,
All right.
thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you guys. So, cool,
Great
thanks. Nice to
hear
meet
from
you.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Tammy, nice to meet you in
You too.
person.
set, Bob?
All set.
Okay, I'm gonna reconvene the meeting. It's 5:45. And our next appointment is with Headwater Consultant, Tyler Phillips, on 19 Mile Pier.
Hi there.
Hi, good. Well, I don't want to presuppose why I know, that I know why I'm here, so you guys could let me know, but I'm happy to give you updates on the permitting process, if that's would start a discussion, or if there's other things you want me to talk about.
Okay, I actually stopped and met with a neighbor,
Okay.
and I know you talked to him since. So is that boundary line?
Oh, with this neighbor?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that in play? Are we working on that?
it's set whenever I wanted to make sure that you guys were on board with it, because we talked about two, so I think probably the easiest way is actually if I back up and say that the state sent out a letter in response to our permit. Now, early on, that was that, oh, we can't do this because the whole boundary line piece that we discussed it,
Right.
I think over the phone, I think at the last meeting we had. And then I looked at two options to ensure that we could do the boundary line adjustment, accommodate the boats that would use the pier. My first crack at that, my assumption, because I couldn't get a hold of a barge operator, was not right. My assumption was it was too narrow, so I ended up getting a call back from this gentleman and revised the boundary line adjustment. Still is pretty minor in the whole scheme of things. So remember, I had sent this along, which was the first one. This was the boundary line adjustment. So that had the pin moving over 1 foot, and the town gives up 35 square feet of land. No one loses any water frontage. I had to revise that because if you want to accommodate a barge, it's actually 25 feet wide. Seems huge, right? But they use that, and the state's going to say, you're going to tie it up there. Can't handle the property line. So instead, I came up with this plan.
How can we project what's going to be used?
Well, we can't, but we got to start. So
Yeah.
you mean how can the state or how?
How can anybody project who's going to use what on the side of that?
Yeah. Well, it's for a boat, and you're right. If I suppose if it was a occasional, someone builds a boat that's super wide, I guess it'd be in violation for that couple days or that period of time it was tied up. But nonetheless, I'll put it this way: as it is now, every time someone ties up, they're not meeting that standard. It's not violation because it predates the standard. But this would correct it and allow boats to tie up that are so the minute we make just to back up, the minute that we make the outward, the footprint moves outward, we're making it less conforming. Right now, the boats tied up don't conform. If we expand the pier outward even an inch, it means the boats move further over that line under the current property line, that they just won't accept that, not making it worse. Everything make it better will be good. Here, we're doing the boundary line adjustment again. Here you lose a total of 53 square feet of land.
So you moved it, what, 18 inches?
It's a total of 18 inches, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's still doable. The pin, took some photos and measurements. The pin, the rock there, it says town of Tuftonboro. It moves the pin almost, not under, I think it can be relocated without moving that rock, but it's close. So if we had to adjust the rock a little bit, is that gonna, move it over a foot? That might need to be done to place the pin, but actually, it's a pretty minor adjustment. We discussed this idea. I had asked the state on this particular matter because they said it was kind of a showstopper. I asked them, what they thought the options were. They were going to check with their legal folks. It took a couple months. So I ended up calling the Attorney General's office, who we met with out on site, and he said, "Well, I recommended to them several weeks ago that you do a lot line adjustment." I felt like perfect. That's the simplest answer. DES, in their recent response, so all this has been going on, I said, "Hey, DES, can you give us some feel here? We need to do this lot line adjustment. We want to move forward with it." And they wouldn't until they wrote their official letter, and they use up all their 60 days before they write their letter. So they wrote a letter, and one of the items was, you don't meet this
now they're saying formally, you don't meet this property line thing. We suggest you eliminate all the boat slips and remove all the posts on that side. And I said, well, I think we can be more creative than that. And why don't we do what if we did a lot line adjustment? Would that meet the standard? They said yes. So I think we've picked the right approach.
So they're on board.
Yes, they are, and I've spoken with the abutter. He's on board with this lot line adjustment. I sent him this plan. He said yes. I also asked him about getting permission, because if you do any work in the lake for a dock, if you do a dock and it impacts wetland jurisdictional boundaries, which includes the lake, if you're within 20 feet, you need written permission, notarized. Obviously, he's going to do that. He said if you do that, and you do the adjustment. So the next step would be to do this adjustment, and so I'm ready to do it. I just want to get your blessing on that this location's okay, and
Right.
you know, I mean, it's, you know, once
So
we
now
do
we
it.
have to go, we have to go to the planning board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And I could have someone draw up that plan.
Mhm.
That's not a big deal. They go to the planning board, and you know, we need the abutter to, you know, sign a permission saying that he agrees to this lot line adjustment, but we can get all that paperwork and get that into the board. The other items, so there were 3 items. I don't know if you guys want to go over more on that piece, but of the 3 items that DES responded to on our application, one was was permission. One was, you know, permission work within 20 feet. One is to, you know, do the lot line adjustment. So both of those are good. I think we got those kind of in the bank. The other one, which I would do before we make this whole lot line adjustment, is this yellow, you know, the sheet pile on this plan represents the outward limit of the pier, of the proposed. I added this yellow area as outward from that, as to provide the contractor flexibility. So when he's driving the sheets, if he hits a rock, I mean, once we lock in this project and the state grants you land, lake bed, we have a box to work within.
Right.
So I don't want to presume that this guy's gonna be able to walk that long, you know, drive metal sheets for 200 feet or 165 feet or whatever that distance is, without, you know, needing to deviate a little bit. So what I had proposed to do was showed it this way, but allowed him, from a permitting standpoint, an extra foot of variance.
Right.
You know, so it could wander a little bit if he needs to. He hits a boulder, doesn't have to dig. So I thought that was pretty good. Well, they didn't like that note. They thought that was too much wiggle room. So what they want us to do is show the maximum outward footprint, which would mean I would just show the sheeting out further, and then they'll just build it in from that. Is that, I know it sounds hokey, but, or it can go that wide, I suppose, and it'll be permitted that wide, but invariably we'll be at some width, and they say, you know, tie rods only come 26 feet or 27 or something, you know. So
Right.
I guess what I'm saying is, if you guys like this project, there's nothing that says we can't build it the way we've shown it. We're gonna permit it 1 more foot out. That would be a safe bet in my mind. I mean, it doesn't, that way you have the flexibility.
And DES is gonna go along with that?
To build it inside of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the presumption. We're
Well,
not moving it.
It sounds like a distinction without a difference. I mean, you gave yourself 6 inches worth of, or a foot worth of wiggle room. Now you're just codifying that into,
Oh, well, and the last one's even more so. They want a surveyor to show the ordinary high water line and the limit of the footprint of the project. I think it's because, I think there's two things here that makes it, elevates it. Number one, it's a permanent structure. Number two, this will now be land. This is no longer considered a dock or pier. This is tough number of land. This is shorefront.
right,
So, in a way, this is kind of, you know, this changes maps. I mean, not that people are scribbling maps, but I mean, they, I think, want to know what is the meets and bounds description of the edge of this pier, which is, I agree, it's a little specific, but, you know, I'm not seeing a downside to it, really. I think we've got our short list of items to address. All of them are easy. The last one is getting permission the last one is make sure that any boats on this side, as a result of, you know, our outward facade extension, that boats on this side don't hang more, are not, do not cross, or within, the outward facade is 8 feet from the imaginary extension, assuming in that case, the boats on this side would be 8 feet wide.
That's not gonna interfere with the concrete ramp, is it?
No, I mean, as it is now, I mean, that's the thing. There is one, we need, right now, this is 8 feet for this whole length. Right about here, we're 7.5 feet. So I do have to bump it over about a half. So my plan would be to show this a foot over, which gives us, for its length. But here, possibly do it just the half foot, because this curves at this point. So we make an adjustment, we're gonna show a little larger, but at the end of the day, they'll be able to build largely what you have here, with the exception of this last little piece here.
That's gonna come in just to.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I looked at that, I was thinking the same thing, like, boy, you know, someone comes in at an angle, and, you know, all of a sudden they don't have room for the boat, the trailer, and it's all a skewed angle. And the other thing to remember is this yellow line that's like that's our limit of impact footprint.
It doesn't mean that's where you're gonna put it.
Right, I mean, this sheet piling here is basically on land at the same point. So it obviously has to tie into land at some point. And for this to be 20 feet away, so we don't need permission, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna, you know, this will basically hold the line, or if anything, come in just slightly. The rest, I think we show it, you know, 1 foot from this footprint, we give ourselves 1 foot all the way around. I mean, we'll show it 1 foot wider, but I think to the contractor, hey, you're gonna build it in. I mean, it's, and I'll put that, I'll express that in the response. We're doing this with, you know, under the condition that if we determine that we need to build it inward from that, that's okay. You know, and that's the way I expressed it, was the maximum footprint or something. Provide the actual proposed maximum footprint. So again, I'll put that in there, and if they don't like that, then we'll have to discuss that. But
Right.
you know, I'm pretty sure they're fine with that. I think they're just trying to be, you know, cover themselves. So the sequence that I would see is that I make these revisions to the plans work for this.
Yeah.
I get the surveyor to show his piece on here, which is we'll have 3 steps for the surveyor. The first one's just a simple one. He's going to stamp the plans, the revised plan, seeing that the ordinary high water line, which we already showed, but he's now certifying that is the ordinary high water line, the blue line, which is the 504.32, the lake level full pool. That and the maximum outward footprint of the sheet piling. So that will be, he's certifying that. Then the application we submit, all right, here's our response to comments. Good. We work away at the lot line adjustment with the abutter in the meantime, so that's kind of getting going along. The state's already okayed that conceptually, you know, as solving this one item here about instead of removing, instead of losing all these slips on here. So we get that going with him, and then we're good. Then the guys at the Attorney General's office said submit stuff as soon as you can, but DES is saying, well, you need our blessing first, and we need, you know, to hold a public hearing. And they're right that at the end of the day, even if everyone's on board, the governor or whatever, at this way the law is written, is it has to have the blessing of DES, which I think it does. I don't think they're resisting anymore.
We're not just going for a permit on, you know, based on past practices. We're actually getting a grant right.
Yes.
So it's a little more.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This isn't
involved.
like they said. It hadn't been done for 70 years. I mean, since then I found out that there is a law firm that just did one somewhere else a couple of years ago, and the Attorney General is going to send the town and us an example of that paperwork, so that we know exactly, because I said, well, just give us a list. You want, you know, when we're all done, what do you need for the grant right? He's like, well, I can explain, but I'll tell you what, we haven't done it much, and we just have one that we took a couple of years to do, and let's just get it right, and I'll send you that example. I haven't seen it yet, but I think in the end, that's the last piece, and that's what I suspect, is it's gonna be just like a deed. You're gonna take the deed, you're gonna have a new description that says this was this land, you know, prior to, now there's gonna be some exhibit that shows now the land extending out, and that exhibit has to have a, you know, legal description and a visual, pictorial, which will be a plan that will be the exhibit. what the procedures and steps they go through, I'm not, I'm not familiar with. But
Okay,
it's the
so
Attorney
let's,
General.
let's say this is gonna take a couple months.
Yeah,
But
it's
the
DES.
warrant article that we wrote
Mhm.
is not non-lapsing. So our expectation was we were gonna do this year.
Mhm, mhm.
So we have two avenues. One is for you to put together a contractor to do this, so we can operate the funds.
Mhm.
The other is for us to just let it lapse and we'll go try again next year.
And take the chance that we lose.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a chance the voters will say no.
You have to go back to them for a little more money anyway, right?
Not necessarily, I don't know what your number is yet.
No, I don't either. But, the number that I got back from the one contractor was higher, I think, than you guys had. So, I mean, I guess you guys know the voters better. I can try to pull something together. It's just, it's not really in my hands. I mean, the DES will get this back. If I turn this around tomorrow morning, which won't happen, but let's just say I did, it still is, they've got another 30 to 60 days to review my response. And then they schedule a public hearing that they have to provide notice for. They hold the public hearing, I think they receive comments, so that's probably another 45 days on top of their.
So we're well out into November.
You're into December.
Well, and what I was told was that, no one's, that in November, getting on their agenda is difficult. Because when I talked to the Attorney General, he was like, go for it. He thought everything made sense, and Councilor Kenny said, hey, it'd be great if you got this in before the first of the year. I can't believe that any councilor present or future, if there was gonna be a change, would have a problem with this, but he did tell me that the current is canvassing, I believe, informally of the councilors, is that they support this project in the grant right. Or I got that sense. So, I don't know, it's critical, it'd be nice to get it done, but there's that timing. It would be also nice to get it done for years, but I don't know where we're gonna stand in terms of timing. I mean, we could I could start involving, they're gonna wanna see a permit. I was gonna say, I start involving a contractor more, but at this point, he's familiar with the site, we could go down there and meet, we can look at stuff, so we can chart, he can get a refined estimate. But a lot of the problem with these projects is the metal, is no one's committing to metal prices more than so many days out. Like big pipeline projects, they're just not even, there's the cost of the project, and then pipelines like materials plus, markup 10% or whatever it is. They don't commit to it right now. And so this far out, with it being metal, that's gonna be a hard one for him to commit to early on for somebody's building.
And our issue is that if we don't have a contract, by the end of the year, we can't encumber the funds.
Right.
Which means we gotta go back and ask again, although we may ask for a bigger number if we need it. But we need to
But you
have,
have to have a number either way.
one way or another, we have to have
We have to
something
have
You have to have the bid.
to be able to encumber the funds we've already
Yeah.
asked for.
So, I guess, to get the contractor the information he would need to pull together contractors together to provide a price, I don't think he needs the grant right completed. I mean, that, at the end of the day, that doesn't affect him. It's a line,
Right.
imaginary line on
It's
paper.
there.
But he will want to see the permit issued and the permit approved. Maybe not issued, but approved. I think he's probably close with this, but I guess maybe what we could do is, let's see where we can get, how far we can get. We may be able to get the stage where we get the permit approved and then involve him or a couple, we're not gonna just go with one person, and see if they can start pricing it out at that point. Because then there's not, again, maybe contingency on metal, but at least you'd have a level of commitment from someone.
Mhm.
What that level is, and if it's sufficient to meet, your requirements for encumbering funds,
Right.
I don't know. But that's just,
Okay,
that's just how the
well-
timing of these things.
So just so that you understood what our needs are here.
Yep, yep.
So whatever help you need getting it into the planning board here.
I mean, how does the town, I mean, again, I can get the paperwork together, but I'm not familiar with kind of the legal process of the town, like, you know, you're giving up 50, you know, so probably about the size of this table, maybe,
Right.
maybe a little less, but,
Right.
or a little more, but it's 53 feet. I don't know that, so I guess I would just say it might be helpful for, if you guys could do a little homework to find out if you need anything, because I'd hate to get to the planning board to have someone, you know, smart aleck, oh, you can't do this because you need a vote of
Yeah.
the people, and,
Well,
you know.
no, but you do need a vote of the select board to market
Okay.
town property.
yeah, yeah.
So we're not selling it, but getting
Yeah.
some benefit back from
Yeah.
trading.
Well,
Primary.
I guess, if there's stuff I can provide, but I guess in my mind, I'd
We're
like to.
actually not obligated to adhere to planning board regulations either, as a board. We do this out of a courtesy
Yeah.
to get, you know, their
Mhm.
imprimatur on this deal.
Mhm. But as a landowner, I still think, I know what you mean, in terms, I don't think you have to actually adhere to the process. But legally, somehow that land has to change.
Right, and we have to issue them a deed,
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
deed correction.
yeah. So this is kind of,
Yes,
you know,
it
this is a little new land.
He's the one that's paid
landscape.
for it, having a new deed created, we have to do that for him,
Yep,
so.
yep. And we, again, I can have that, just like we would do between two private parties, drawn up. Surveyor, licensed land surveyor, you're familiar with that. It's, if there's anything special that we need to add to that. And so what I think we should do is, I can have them draw that up, the lot line adjustment, send it over, make sure Southworth's okay with it. Maybe me first send it over to you guys and see if you need to pass it through any legal process. Maybe that would be the way to do it. And
Yeah.
Southworth, he's already seen the plans, and it's not gonna be too much, you know, it'd be a little this, but this, I highlighted stuff so you can see it, but I don't see him having any different opinion now than he did. a month
And
ago.
probably the planning board attorneys the one to use, because they're more land use
They're land use attorneys, yes.
attorneys, so.
Mhm. Do you know what that firm is?
Chandela, something.
Okay,
Donnie
done.
Human.
Yeah, okay,
Chandela.
all right, good. Okay, so what if we try to pull something together on that? You know, again, the sequence is me address this, adjust the plan, get a survey application, I'll get that back to DES, so that clock starts ticking. We'll work on this lot line adjustment, I'll get you a draft of that. You guys can look at it, maybe send it to that DTC lawyers. And then if there's nothing there, we'll send it over, make sure Southworth's okay, or I could do that concurrent. I mean, he's already seen it, so I could do it at the same time, or you would prefer to have your legal okay it just first. Be cleaner that way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be like very methodical about sequence, but that takes longer. Then we don't have any kind of backwards embarrassments or mistakes. So I can send it to you guys first, and if it starts dragging out, just give me the word, and I'll send it over to Southworth. I think I don't anticipate he's going to have anything other than signing
No, he can have
something.
his attorney look at it as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
And if, you know, he wants some other assurances from us, then we need to talk about it.
Okay. So that would be that, and I think at the same time, the Attorney General, I was asking him whether this should be carried out first, this lot line adjustment before, but he said he didn't think it had to be, so I'll send him that, again, once we know that's in the works, we've got something pending with the planning board, just so we don't wait to each approval, we'll kind of
Right.
layer it in. So I can send then this to the adjustment to the Attorney General, then I should have an example from them of what they need for the
Great, right.
for the grant. Yeah. Okay,
Sounds good.
all right. Any other?
We're not doing anything on Lake Road. It's just sitting there,
You telling me, you're asking me?
so. No, I know we are doing.
Yeah, I think that would be a little easier than this because it's not a grant and write process, but each one has its own skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
So hopefully it wouldn't be that difficult. If you guys wanted them, I'll let me know. I'm happy to dig into that.
Well, let's get this one done.
Yeah,
first.
great. Agreed.
See what we can do.
Been real busy with it, and hopefully we can move along.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you for your.
I mean, it's not, you guys don't understand, it's not the only thing I work on, but it's like one of these where you gotta like push the ball, keep it going, do other work, and as soon as you get a response back, you jump on it. So it's hard to get momentum with these things because there's a lot of parties involved, but I think we're rounding the corner. I mean, we got a short letter. These letters are usually, it's been a long time since I've only gotten 4 comments. Usually it's 8, 10.
Yeah, it's a good sign, the stars are aligned.
I know. So we just need the economy to, I should say, the material prices to come down, so the price of this thing comes down a little bit. But, there may be an advantage, frankly, for waiting a little bit, right? Pricing it.
I think next year you're gonna see some prices coming down.
Yeah. But you guys need a number to run with before the end of the year. So I'll use that as my real critical goal, and if we can get the
Yeah, if we
Right,
can,
right
we
beforehand,
can't,
but-
we'll
yeah.
deal with it at next town meeting. I think we can make it happen. It's just,
Yeah.
the process takes longer than it should.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep. I'm gonna move on to the signature file. First item for signature is a right of burial for Robert Workman and Mary Ann Workman.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Second is a right of burial for Elaine Mandingo.
So moved.
All those in
Second?
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is Linda, is it Boucher?
Yeah.
Okay. Lisa Boucher, Deputy Town Clerk, Deputy Tax Collector, has finished her probationary period. And so this is a rate of pay change from $19.29 to $19.67.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
So, not much of a change.
This is a notice of appointment for David Dauphiné
Very nice.
to the Capital Improvements Program Committee. I thought it was for the budget committee.
No, it's
The
for
budget
capital
committee's
improvement.
an elected position.
Yes.
Okay,
And I would motion to approve.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This is a sale of surplus equipment, invitation to bid for the sale of the 2012 Dodge Charger police cruiser.
Right, we discussed that and we were talking about putting a minimum price on it, which doesn't show there.
Right.
Yeah, I tabled that until,
Let's table that till we get the minimum price before we write that.
yep, until we get proper.
You're meeting on Monday, so I'll have it ready for you then. Please
Okay.
gets me a new.
Okay, then we had a change in the permits prices for, oh no, this is a warden services bill. Bill must be signed by the warden, forwarded to the selectmen, after town payment for form duly signed for the forge of the forest ranger. So this is payment on fire permits,
Mhm.
I believe, isn't it?
Yes.
Category 1 and 2.
So all the fire permits that have been issued, we get a cut of it? Is that what that is? Are we
We
accepting
owe-
payment or do we owe?
We owe 210, 340, 392,
$392 or $3.92?
$392. And
I don't understand this process.
okay, 65 permits were issued, and the price per permit was $2 a permit.
So who collects the money?
The fire chief, I guess.
Okay, so the fire chief collects the money and now we have to pay the state that money.
Right,
Okay.
at a permit rate.
There's two copies.
That's 2 copies.
Yep. That's the second copy.
Yeah, so these are the permits issued. I don't know, is there a total somewhere? I like the idea that Jack Woodward's already wade in.
Mhm.
He knows what it's about. I got a motion that we sign this.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This is 2 forms, but it's in duplicate. I guess it's a duplicate.
There should be
And then we've got a,
4 pages total
yeah,
on that one.
2 signatures. And we've got an agreement for services with Robertson Green PLLC of Concord for our annual financial auditing. So this is our auditor, and they're looking to update their agreement with us.
They're looking to re-up for another year.
They're looking to re-up.
Are we satisfied with the
Well,
work that they've done for us?
yeah, so I have had no trouble at all with Robertson Green and their auditing. But at some juncture, we need to post it. But if we're gonna do that, we need to start in March.
When was the last time this was posted?
Jesus, I guess.
Under your term, at least?
Yeah, so it was posted once when I was first on, so 5 years ago.
Should be sitting that too.
I can look at, is it 2 signatures?
There's 4 pages that
4
need to be
pages and your
signed.
signatures on. Okay.
I just gotta figure things out here.
Has the price changed much from year to year?
No,
So they've maintained their terms essentially?
yeah, yeah, they've been good about that, they've been good about showing up when they're supposed to show up, which was another issue with auditors in the past. And they, you know, they fully understand the requirements for when things have to be in on time.
Well, if they've met the terms of their original agreement and consecutive agreements, and they've maintained pricing, at least within cost of living increases, then I would support signing this one as well.
Okay. I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Trade you.
Okay. So the next is correspondence,
Action.
action. Appointments, action. Good. A contract with the Conway Area Humane Society is a backup. This is our chief of police asking us to, I don't see a fee, but I'm sure there is a fee. Asking us to authorize him to use Conway Area Humane Society as a backup for when our primary shelter is full. We use Lakes Region Humane Society as our primary, as they're close by. Recently, they advised that they are unable to accept stray dogs. Given their limited capacity to, well, we're saying they don't accept it at all, but limited capacity to accept stray dogs, even when not full, I think it would be prudent to have a backup shelter.
I don't see any reason to not support that.
I'm gonna make that a motion.
Sure.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Correspondence.
Does that require a signature? No?
No,
Okay.
it's just authorization.
Permission, yeah.
CIP has got an online request for any capital improvement projects want to be submitted. So hopefully all of our department heads have been copied on this. Kenny?
Yes, it came from Jill and she asked me for a list.
Okay. So just send her an email and make sure that she did copy everybody.
So is this gonna include the phone system that we've been talking about?
No, that comes to us.
That comes to us.
Yeah, we're the ones that talk about that stuff.
Okay.
So anything you have that would be,
Fire suppression for the vaults?
Selectmen related, fire suppression, phone system. Jack will bring us different building needs. So if some building needs a window or paint or whatever, he'll bring a list together for what needs to happen there. And a lot of that doesn't fall under CIP.
It's not big enough.
Because it's just not big enough there.
What's your definition of big enough for CIP?
Well, it's sort of.
What's our definition? $10,000,
It's
3
kind of
years?
It's kind of a movable feast. Our definition, I think, is somewhere under $10,000 or up to $10,000. But we've gone over that on occasion for one-time purchases. But if it's anything, like the oxygen systems that firefighters use, in a series of years when we put money aside to get that stuff. We've done it with radios, some radio equipment we bought the same year we started talking about it.
Right.
So, for instance, the phone system, looking at the prices that came before that we looked at, I don't see that as a CIP issue. That's just,
I don't either.
something we're gonna buy and live with. Yeah, the fire suppression, that's another one. That's an internal discussion. It's vehicle purchases, bigger items. We should start talking about the dump truck at some point, deciding whether or not we're gonna buy a dump truck. Because if we're not gonna buy a dump truck, then let's stop talking about it.
Right.
But if we are gonna buy one, let's talk about how we're gonna do it. Because I've researched that highway grant money and the federal money. We could put $270,000 together, but we have to make that happen before December 31st.
Right.
And because all of that highway grant money is gonna hit the undesignated fund balance, it's just gonna go into the capital. So if we wanna designate that money, we need to designate it early.
And have a contract so that we can.
I don't know that we have to have a contract.
I don't either, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I'll look into
Well,
that.
if it's funded, if it's town money, yes, we do. We have to encumber it. But if it's the highway block grant money or a portion thereof.
Right. I don't know if we have
I don't
to.
think we do.
Yeah, but I think I'll get clarity on that. I know we don't have to on the federal money, although we do have to have a public hearing to accept it.
And
So anyway, I think we'll look at the solar business. It's going to come through in the next month. We'll look at the truck, and we'll sort of decide this fall how we want
I gotta tell you,
to play this.
I'm gonna need to be sold on a truck.
That's why I'm bringing it up, because I knew there's resistance, and I'm okay with that. But we don't see her all night, so. But no, I knew there was resistance, and I appreciate the fact that I have some resistance to it too. Not because I don't think we need a truck, but I don't know that the setup is right for paying $270,000 for a truck. You need to care for it.
Yeah.
At any rate, that's a longer discussion.
Right, but sooner is better.
Okay, Tufnor Police has warranted all of the unlicensed dogs. They should put the people in jail. There's no bad dogs.
Father Flanagan of Tuftonboro.
Yeah.
No such thing as a bad dog.
Paula Granger of Tufnor Neck has been issued a cease and desist, but
For what?
I'm gonna read it, I don't mind. Please be advised that this firm represents the town of Tufton has come to our town's attention that you are using your property located at 109 Tufton Neck Road in violation of Tufton zoning ordinances because you are constructing a deck without first obtaining a building permit.
Okay.
All right.
And that's happened, it's currently happening at another location in Melbourne. And one neighbor was in on Friday when I was here, the other neighbor, who was a former selectman, was in today. And it's just people wanting to do things.
Wantonly.
Yeah, I'm gonna build something and ask for forgiveness. And I think at some point in time, our ZBA has to say, no, tear it down, or move it somewhere where it complies. We heard about the speed sign being stolen. Okay, and the chief gave us a link to all the town ordinances mentioned in the noise question, the description of the highway block grant cash as it's coming in. That's a decision by the Board of Adjustment. Request for minor impact wetland permit. And,
Tufton Borough Free Library.
right, Borough Library. And I've asked, just so you know, I saw Dennis at the store, I don't know, a month ago, and I said, the library always used to come in, and everybody says, no, they never came in. And I said, yeah, they used to come in. But at any rate, I said, let's forget about the past. Come in once a quarter. Give us your report, tell us how you're doing, tell us how your cash flow is, do whatever you want to do. What kind of employees you've got. Just become part of the normal scheduled events. Do we have any selectmen?
No silos, no more silos.
No silos?
No silos. We don't want people to silo themselves, we want to.
Oh. No. Do we have any selectmen's updates?
Well, there was a planning board meeting that I was supposed to attend last week, but since I fell ill, I did not go. So I have nothing to report.
And did you get a report on that plan?
I did not. haven't seen
And now
I haven't seen the minutes.
Susan is out. with COVID.
She's out
So
too.
I'm not sure what we're gonna get.
The chairman was out, so I don't know. Hopefully we'll get a report next week.
The plot thickens.
Down with the sickness.
Anything from Selectman Pike?
Yes. I'm sure this is not news to either one of you two. Huge uproar over the reassessment.
Oh, I know.
Be that as it may.
I couldn't get out of here Friday.
Yeah. The other thing is that I'm sure that the board will join me in expressing condolences to the McWhirter family on the loss of our former town employee, Darlene. She was a good girl.
Yeah, I mean,
Very sorry to hear the passing
it
of
could
that.
be that we do have fun. Maybe we should set up a card of flowers or something.
Well, we have to look at
Kathy did that already.
Kathy, she did already. There you go. Good. That was it for me.
Okay. Oh, what are we talking about? Jesus, I had it right on top of my head. I dealt with the reevaluation folks. Dennis Salembo, not Dennis Salembo.
Dennis in the library.
Dennis the library.
Gilman.
No,
Gilman.
no, Dennis Salembo approached me.
Okay.
Which one of us is on the agricultural?
Agri? No, I'm not.
That's me.
agricultural.
Is that you?
Yes.
Somebody approached him about taking over the agricultural committee?
Not to my knowledge, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can bring it to the board with whatever recommendation you want. I'm gonna say I'm not in favor of that, but maybe I can be convinced. I don't know that it's a good use of his time.
I need to find out if it actually happened, because to my
Yeah.
knowledge, it wasn't. But
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm also not in favor of it, at least right off the top of my head. It doesn't seem, he's got enough on his plate. I don't know what the Agricultural Commission has to deal with other than the simple town garden, which they seem to have troubles with at times.
Right, it's not so simple.
No.
And I guess it's just one of those things,
Well,
it's not so
we'll
simple.
see how that goes. I don't know if they intend to dissolve the commission and make it part of Parks and Rec, or if they just want him to be the chairman. I don't know what's going on. I'll look into that.
All right. And we're gonna meet again next Monday? Are we meeting?
9 a.m.
9 a.m., okay.
Yep.
I'll try to remember between now and then what was I trying to remember now.
Talking about
Well,
assessments, people coming in and talking about assessments.
You asked to speak to Rod at 8:30.
Oh, right, yeah. Next Monday we need to be here at 8:30. Because our
Rod starts at 9.
Yeah, our assessments need to be done. And our, taxes, our forms all need to be into the state.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to be there the 1st of September. It's gonna be the middle of September. But we need to be able to set the tax rate no later than November 15th.
Oh, right, yeah, for sure. That gives Jackie time enough to get everything put together.
And it's
and out.
not generally us slowing it down, it's
Right.
generally the county or the school district or the state.
And we don't want to be the
But we don't wanna be the people slowing it down.
So last I knew, we weren't having a meeting next Monday. When we talked about this last week,
Did we?
we looked at the calendar and said we weren't having a meeting next, we were only having 3
Right,
meetings
and
this
then
month.
you guys decided that you needed to meet with Rod before he starts his meetings.
Yeah. Okay.
That can be a work session.
Right.
Well,
Is that-
I have a doctor appointment. I'll just-
Okay, no, that's fine.
I can.
Because we can, if all we're gonna do is meet with Rod, then Guy and I can handle that confrontation easily.
Okay.
So, not to disrupt your life.
Other than that, you have Phil Bennett coming in.
I thought he wasn't coming in until election day.
Who's Phil Bennett?
Alba Architects for the police department.
Oh, I've met him before.
Yeah, can we change him off to the 3rd or whenever
Yeah,
whenever the primary is, it's the 13th, is it?
13th.
Yeah, 13th of September. Because we're gonna be here all day.
Okay.
Let's just do it then. Yeah, we have the number on the,
13th of September, primary day. We have to be there all day. Okay.
yeah.
Thereabouts.
I'll leave it at that, yeah. We have to have some,
You could skip home and grab a sandwich.
we
real
have
easy.
to have a presence.
Yeah. No, I'm
It'd be
just,
nice to have a quorum if we don't, as long as somebody's there to answer questions.
Right.
So you just want to meet with Rod at 8:30 on
Yeah.
Monday?
Can you do it
Yeah.
Monday, is that all right?
No problem at all.
I don't have to cancel my appointment.
No,
No,
Okay.
you're good.
no, Chip and I can deal with that.
And I think,
It's just a matter of lighting the fire.
yeah, I think that's it, I'll remember what it is.
It's all we're really meeting for anyways, right?
Yeah,
We're gonna be doing all this.
no. And I talked to, or Cammy talked to the road agent,
Mhm.
or told him to get his stuff in a lot. So we need to figure out what we're doing there. Because we need to, at some point, and I'll talk to Kathy about that, get together one page, okay, this is the money you have. What do you want to do with it? We can put it all off against taxes, it doesn't, I mean, we can do that, or we can point out certain areas that we want to fund.
Maybe put it to better use, who knows?
That aren't going to require
Good.
a
Huge.
vote of the town, so. And there's gonna be more of that coming in, because this new ordinance just passed, I mean, she talked about the 30% rebate. There's all kinds of stuff in there. I've got Susan looking at that, although now she's out with COVID, so hopefully she's.
Okay, I should be back next week.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of opportunities there that, for instance, financing the truck that may or may not happen, doing the solar doing more money at the police station, finally get that thing off the ground, or into the ground, whatever.
Bill?
All right, anything else?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, I'll move that we adjourn.
Second?
Aye.
Aye.
Cameron, do you have an email address for Sue Wingate?
Yes,
Could you provide me with that, please?
Did you know
Yep.
Jeff Wingate died?
No, I didn't hear about that.